Hey guys, tonight, imagine stepping onto a stage in ancient Athens where the crowd roars your name. Thousands of people have gathered just to hear you perform. You are about to share your latest composition, a beautiful melody paired with poetry that will move hearts and stir souls. You are what we might call a pop star today, one of the most celebrated artists in the ancient Greek world. Your voice is famous. Your lyrics are quoted in symposiums across the Mediterranean, and tonight we are going to explore what your extraordinary life would be like. Before we dive into this fascinating world, I would love it if you could hit that like button if these kinds of historical journeys help you relax and drift off to sleep. And let me know in the comments, would you want to be a musical celebrity in ancient Greece? Just a simple yes or no is perfect. Now let us step back in time together and discover what your daily life would be like as one of the most admired performers in the ancient world. You wake before dawn in your beautiful home as the sun has not yet risen over the hills surrounding your city. This is your favorite time to practice when the world is quiet and the air is cool and fresh. You pick up your lyre and begin to play, your fingers dancing across the strings as the notes ring out pure and clear. This is not just practice, this is your passion, this is your art. In ancient Greece, music was considered one of the highest forms of achievement. Music was essential to education and culture, and the ancient Greeks believed that music shaped a person's character in profound and beautiful ways. As a performer, you were not just an entertainer, but a teacher of the soul, someone who elevated society itself. Your instrument is likely the lyre, an elegant instrument with 7 or more strings stretched across a frame built from tortoise shell. The lyre was the instrument of Apollo himself, the god of music, poetry, and harmony, and when you held your lyre, you held something divine. Or perhaps you played the cithara, the professional version of the lyre that was held upright and played with a plectrum. The philosopher Aristotle himself called the cithara an artist's instrument, one that required serious training and dedication. Some performers specialized in more exotic instruments like the barbiton, which was a larger, deeper-sounding version of the cithara that produced rich, resonant tones capable of filling a great hall. The legendary poet Sappho was famous for playing the barbiton. Sappho lived on the beautiful island of Lesbos around 630 to 570 BC and was called the 10th Muse by people who admired her work. She was known simply as the poetess, just as Homer was known as the poet. Imagine having that kind of reputation. Imagine being so celebrated that people spoke your name with reverence. As a performer in ancient Greece, you composed your own material, which meant you were not just a singer but a poet, a musician, a complete artist. Your words and melodies worked together in perfect harmony, creating experiences that people remembered for the rest of their lives. Your songs were sung at parties across the Greek world, your verses were memorized and quoted, and you were creating culture itself. Your training began when you were young, as music and gymnastics were the 2 pillars of Greek education. The word music actually expressed the entire concept of education in ancient Greek culture. You spent years studying under master musicians, learning scales, modes, and technique while discovering how to make your instrument sing. You learned how to use your voice to convey emotion and meaning. It was challenging at times, certainly, but every moment of practice brought you closer to mastery. The Greeks developed a sophisticated system of musical modes, and each mode carried its own emotional character and spiritual quality. The Dorian mode was strong and martial, the Phrygian mode was exciting and sensual, and the Lydian mode had its own unique color. As a performer, you mastered all of these modes and knew how to choose the perfect mode for each occasion, which made you an expert in the language of emotion. Your performances took place in magnificent settings throughout the Greek world. You might perform at a symposium, an elegant drinking party for aristocratic guests where the room would be beautifully decorated and fine wine would flow. You would be the centerpiece of the evening's entertainment. You might sing at a religious festival honoring Apollo or Dionysus where thousands of people would gather to hear you perform. You could be invited to perform at a wedding, as wedding songs were some of the most joyful compositions in your repertoire. You might compose hymns for important religious ceremonies, or even perform at the great athletic competitions where the best of Greek society gathered. Your reputation brought you respect and admiration throughout the ancient world. Many famous performers came from wealthy, aristocratic families, and the legendary Sappho came from one of the best families on Lesbos. She had 3 brothers, and one of them, Larichos, served as a cupbearer in the town hall of Mytilene, a position held only by boys from the finest families. This background gave Sappho the education and resources she needed to develop her extraordinary talent. But what truly made her famous was her gift, as her voice was beautiful, her poetry was profound, and her talent shone brightly across the entire Greek world. Musical contests were held at major festivals, and these were grand events where the best performers competed for glory and recognition. Winning elevated your status even further. The competition could be intense, yes, but it also pushed you to create your best work and inspired you to reach new heights of artistry. As you practice in those peaceful early morning hours, you feel grateful for the gift you have been given. Every note you play brings beauty into the world, and every word you compose is an offering to the muses. Your art brings meaning and joy to countless people. You are not just a performer, but a celebrated artist in one of the most culturally sophisticated civilizations in human history. Your morning practice session fills you with energy as the sun begins to rise and golden light spills across the hills outside your window. You set down your lyre and prepare for the day ahead, feeling the anticipation building in your chest. Today you have been invited to perform at a symposium, one of the most prestigious invitations an artist can receive in all of ancient Greece. A symposium is far more than just a drinking party, though that is what the word literally means in Greek. It is an elegant gathering where aristocratic men come together after their evening meal to drink wine, discuss philosophy and politics, and enjoy the finest entertainment their world has to offer. And tonight, you are that entertainment. The symposium will take place in the andron, the men's quarters of a wealthy household. This room has been specifically designed for these gatherings, with beautiful painted walls depicting scenes from mythology and the adventures of the gods. Elegant couches line 3 walls of the room, each one piled high with soft cushions where the guests will recline in comfort. Between 7 and 15 couches typically fill the space, which means somewhere between 14 and 30 guests will be present tonight. All of them will be watching you, listening to every note you play and every word you sing. You spend the afternoon preparing your repertoire with great care. You will perform scholia, which are drinking songs that range from patriotic anthems celebrating the glory of your city to light-hearted, playful pieces that match the joyful mood of the gathering. The performance of scholia is often competitive and spontaneous, with one guest reciting the first part of a song and another expected to improvise the ending. As the professional performer, you can demonstrate your exceptional skill by creating beautiful improvisations on the spot, weaving words and melodies together as naturally as breathing. You decide to bring your barbiton to the symposium tonight. The barbiton is the traditional instrument for these gatherings, and its deep, rich tones have a way of filling the andron with warmth and elegance. The guests love the sound of the barbiton because it speaks to something ancient and beautiful in their souls. When you play this instrument, you are connecting them to traditions that stretch back generations. As the sun begins to set, you make your way through the streets to the wealthy household that will host tonight's event. The evening air is pleasant, and you can hear the sounds of the city settling into its nighttime rhythms. Servants greet you at the door with respect and courtesy, recognizing you as an honored guest rather than just hired entertainment. They escort you to the andron, where the room already glows with the soft light of oil lamps. The guests are already reclining on their couches, dressed in fine chitons that drape elegantly across their bodies. These are the elite of your society, men of influence and education who appreciate art and culture at the highest level. Conversation flows easily among them as laughter rings out and wine cups are raised in toasts. The atmosphere is warm and welcoming, filled with the kind of refined enjoyment that only the best gatherings can create. Before the drinking truly begins, the symposiarch is chosen. This is the master of ceremonies who will decide how strong the wine should be for the evening, depending on whether serious philosophical discussions or more sensual indulgence and revelry are planned. The Greeks never drink their wine pure, as they consider that a barbaric practice. Instead, the wine is carefully mixed with water in a large vessel called a crater, creating the perfect balance for the evening ahead. Slave boys manage the wine service with practiced efficiency. They transfer the mixed wine from the crater into elegant pitchers and then attend to each guest, filling their cups with care. Before anyone drinks, libations are poured to honor the gods, with small amounts of wine spilled as offerings. This formality shows the Greek respect for the divine, always acknowledging the gods before enjoying earthly pleasures. The host sees you enter, and his face lights up with genuine pleasure. He gestures for you to come forward and introduces you to his guests with pride in his voice. They already know your name because your reputation has preceded you across the Greek world. Some of them have heard you perform before and have been eagerly anticipating this evening. Others have only heard stories about your talent and are curious to experience your art firsthand. All of them settle into their couches with expectant faces, ready to be transported by your music. You take your place in the room and hold your barbiton with the confidence that comes from years of training and countless performances. The guests fall silent as you prepare to begin, and you can feel the anticipation in the air like something tangible. You begin to play, and the first notes ring out clear and resonant through the andron. Then you begin to sing, and your voice carries across the room with perfect clarity. The melody is beautiful, and the words are carefully chosen to suit this particular audience. You have composed this piece specifically for tonight, with lyrics that reference the host and praise his generosity and wisdom. You celebrate the bonds of friendship among the guests and invoke the blessings of Dionysus, the god of wine and celebration. Every line has been crafted to please these sophisticated listeners, and you can see from their faces that your artistry is working its magic. Some guests close their eyes to better appreciate the music, while others nod along with the rhythm. When you finish the first song, applause fills the room, and the guests call out their approval with genuine enthusiasm. The host beams with pride because his choice of entertainment has been validated before all his friends. You have made him look cultured and sophisticated, which is exactly what he hoped for. Throughout the evening you perform several more pieces, each one carefully chosen to match the mood of the gathering. Between songs, the guests drink and converse, while some of them call you over to join their discussions. They ask you about your compositions and want to know where you find your inspiration. They treat you as an equal rather than as mere entertainment, and this respect is one of the great privileges of your position. Your artistic skill has earned you a place among the elite of Greek society. As the night progresses, the mood becomes more festive and joyful. The guests play kotobos, an amusing game where they fling wine dregs at a target with competitive spirit. Laughter grows louder and more spontaneous, and some guests begin to sing along with your songs, their voices joining yours in harmonious celebration. The symposium has become exactly what it should be, a perfect blend of culture, friendship, and joy. And you are at the center of it all, the artist who has made this magical evening possible. Near the end of the symposium, the host approaches you with a warm smile on his face. He presses a generous payment of coins into your hand, and the weight of the silver feels satisfying. But this is more than just money. It is recognition of your value as an artist. The host leans close and tells you that he wants you to return for his next symposium and promises to recommend you to all his wealthy friends throughout Athens. Word of mouth like this is precious beyond measure for a performer because it means more invitations, more opportunities to showcase your talent, and a growing reputation that spreads across the Greek world. As you walk home through the quiet streets, your barbiton case slung over your shoulder, you think about the larger opportunities that await you. Symposia are wonderful and they bring steady income and respect, but the truly great performers make their names at the major festivals. These are the events where thousands gather, where legends are born, and where a single performance can make you famous throughout all of Greece. The Pythian Games in Delphi are perhaps the most prestigious musical competition in the ancient world. These games are held every 4 years at the sanctuary of Apollo, the god of music himself, in the breathtaking mountain setting of Delphi. The Pythian Games are ranked second in importance only to the Olympic Games, but unlike the Olympics, the Pythian Games began as a purely musical and artistic festival. Athletic events were added later, but music remains at the heart of these sacred games. You dream of competing at Delphi one day, of standing in that holy place where Apollo slew the great serpent Python and established his oracle. The mythological significance of the location adds weight to every performance there. The oldest contest at Delphi is the singing of a hymn to Apollo, and this tradition stretches back centuries into the misty past of Greek history. To win at the Pythian Games means to be recognized as one of the greatest performers of your generation. The musical competitions at the Pythian Games include singing accompanied by cithara, which is your specialty. There are also contests for playing the cithara without vocals, which demonstrate pure instrumental mastery. Some performers compete on the aulos, a double-reeded wind instrument with a haunting sound. The competitions are fierce because the best musicians from all over the Greek world make the journey to Delphi to test their skills. The preparations for the Pythian Games begin 6 months before the festival. 9 Delphian officials called theoroi are sent out to every Greek city to announce the beginning of the games and to declare the sacred truce. During this period, all violent conflict must end throughout Greece to ensure safe passage for everyone who wishes to attend. This sacred truce shows how important these festivals are to Greek civilization, as even wars pause for the celebration of art and athletics. When the festival finally arrives in August or September, the atmosphere in Delphi becomes electric with excitement. The games last for 6 to 8 days and begin with a spectacular reenactment of Apollo's victory over Python. A glamorous procession winds through the sanctuary, and ritual sacrifices are performed in the magnificent temple of Apollo. After 4 days of festivities and religious observances, the competitions finally begin. The poetry and music contests take place in a theatre built above the Temple of Apollo, where the acoustics are absolutely perfect. You can stand on that stage and speak in a normal voice, and every person in the audience can hear you clearly. A panel of expert judges, respected throughout Greece for their knowledge of music and poetry, chooses the victors. These judges are not easy to impress because they have heard the finest performers of their age. The great poet Pindar himself composed victory odes for winners of the Pythian Games. Pindar wrote 12 poems specifically honouring Pythian victors, and these poems were titled the Pythionikoi. To have Pindar compose a poem about your victory was the highest honour imaginable, as his words would carry your fame through the ages. The poems celebrated not just the victor, but their entire family, recounting their lineage and their connections throughout the Greek world. In the early days of the Pythian Games, victors received golden tripods as prizes. Can you imagine the prestige of carrying a golden tripod home to your city after winning at Delphi? But as the games grew more popular and expanded to include more events, the practice changed. In 582 BC, the Pythian Games became what the Greeks called stephanitic, or crown games. This meant no monetary prizes were awarded to winners, and instead they received a wreath of bay laurel, the sacred plant of Apollo. The laurel came from the Vale of Tempe in Thessaly, gathered specifically for this purpose. Some might think a simple wreath is a poor prize compared to gold, but they would be wrong. The laurel crown from the Pythian Games represented something far more valuable than money. It represented eternal glory, divine favour, and recognition as a master of your art. When you returned home wearing that crown, your entire city would celebrate. processions would be held in your honor, and your name would be remembered in songs and stories for generations. Closer to home, Athens holds its own magnificent festival called the Pythian Games. These games honor Athena, the patron goddess of Athens, and they have been held every 4 years since 566 BC. The Pythian Games are different from the Pythian Games in one important way: they are crematitic rather than stephanitic. This means the winners receive actual monetary prizes and valuable goods, not just symbolic crowns. The Pythian Games include extensive musical competitions alongside the athletic events. There are contests for rhapsodic recitation of Homeric poetry, where performers bring the ancient epics to life with their voices. There are competitions for instrumental music on both the aulos and cithara, and singing competitions accompanied by these instruments. The reading of epic poetry by masters such as Homer, Pindar, and Hesiod is also part of the festival. The prizes at the Pythian Games are substantial and highly desirable for any professional performer. Winners receive large amounts of olive oil from the sacred olive trees of Athena, stored in beautiful painted amphoras that become treasured possessions. The value of this oil is considerable, and it can be sold for significant profit or kept as a source of personal wealth. For a performer trying to establish a career, winning at the Pythian Games provides both money and prestige in equal measure. But your performances are not limited to grand festivals and competitions, as wonderful as those opportunities are. You are also called upon to perform at some of the most important moments in people's lives, and these intimate performances bring their own deep satisfaction. When someone in your city is getting married, you might be hired to compose and perform the wedding hymns that will celebrate their union. Greek weddings are joyous occasions filled with ritual and ceremony. The celebration lasts for 3 days and involves the entire community. The proolia is the pre-wedding ceremony when the bride spends her last days with her mother and female relatives preparing for her new life. During this time, she makes offerings to Artemis, Athena, and Aphrodite, dedicating her childhood toys and cutting a lock of her hair as a symbol of her transition from girlhood to womanhood. Then comes the gamos, the wedding day itself, which is when you would perform. The day begins with the bride taking a ritual bath for purification and fertility, with water carried in a special vessel called a lutrophoros. After offerings are made at the temple, a great wedding feast takes place at the home of the bride's father. Men and women sit at separate tables, as is customary, and the atmosphere is festive and warm. Your music fills the air during the feast, your songs celebrating love and fertility and the blessing of the gods. You compose verses that reference the specific couple, praising the beauty of the bride and the strength of the groom. Your melodies are joyful and uplifting, designed to make this day memorable for everyone present. The guests listen with delight, clapping along with the rhythm and sometimes joining in on the choruses you have crafted for them. The most important moment of the wedding is the anacalypteria, when the bride's veil is removed. This signifies the completion of her transfer from her father's household to her husband's household. Then comes the wedding procession, where the groom drives a chariot bringing his still-veiled bride to her new home. The entire procession is lit by torches as relatives follow behind carrying gifts. Sometimes you join this procession, playing music to accompany the journey through the streets. The procession arrives at the groom's home, where his mother greets the couple at the hearth. Dried fruits and nuts are showered upon them to bless them with fertility and prosperity. Your music accompanies all of these beautiful rituals, weaving through the ceremony like a golden thread that ties everything together. For the couple and their families, your performance helps make this day sacred and memorable. For you, it is an honor to be part of such an important life transition. The final day is the epolia, when gifts are formally presented and carried into the new household. These gifts often include jewelry, garments, perfume, pots and furniture that will help establish the couple's new life together. Your payment comes during this time, and it is usually generous because families want the best possible music for their children's weddings. You are also called upon to perform at funerals, which are solemn occasions that require a different kind of artistry. When someone dies in your city, especially someone of high status, their family may hire you to compose and perform a funeral lament. These laments are called dirges, and they are an ancient and respected form of Greek poetry. The funeral ritual begins with the prophesis, when the body is laid out for viewing on the second day after death. The body has been washed, anointed, and adorned with a wreath by the women of the family. Kinswomen wrapped in dark robes stand around the bier, with the chief mourner at the head. Women lead the mourning by chanting dirges, tearing at their hair and clothing, and striking their breasts in grief. If you have been hired for this occasion, you join the women in their lamentations. Your dirge is carefully composed to honor the life of the deceased, recounting their virtues and achievements. Your voice must convey the depth of grief that the family feels while also providing comfort through the beauty of your art. The melody you choose is haunting and mournful, designed to help the mourners express emotions that are too deep for ordinary words. Before dawn on the third day, the funeral procession called the ekphora forms to carry the body to its final resting place. Depending on the wealth of the family, they might hire additional mourners to swell the procession and demonstrate the importance of the deceased. Your music accompanies this procession through the streets as torches light the way in the pre-dawn darkness. The entire city hears your lament echoing through the air, and people pause in respect as the procession passes. At the gravesite, offerings are made to the deceased, including libations of honey, milk, water, wine, and perfumes. Locks of hair are dedicated by close relatives. Then come the energismata, which are offerings of food, including the first fruits of crops and dried fruits. Throughout these rituals, your voice provides a continuous thread of remembrance and honor. Your art helps transform grief into something meaningful and even beautiful. After the burial is complete, there is a funeral feast called the peridipnon. This feast is seen as the dead person's final act of hospitality toward those who attended the funeral. The mood shifts slightly from pure grief toward gratitude and remembrance. You might perform again at this feast, choosing songs that celebrate the life of the deceased rather than mourning their death. Your music helps the family begin the long process of healing. The family pays you well for your services at funerals because they understand the importance of honoring their dead properly. Performing the correct rituals is essential for ensuring the deceased person's successful passage into the afterlife. Your music is part of that sacred obligation, and families are grateful for your skill in helping them fulfill their duties to their loved ones. Between your private performances at weddings and funerals, you also have sacred duties that connect you to the divine itself. As a performer in ancient Greece, you are called upon to sing hymns at religious festivals throughout the year, and these performances are some of the most spiritually meaningful work you do. The Greeks believe that music has the power to honor the gods and create a bridge between the mortal and divine realms. One of your most important repertoires consists of dithyrambs, which are wild and ecstatic hymns sung and danced in honor of Dionysus, the god of wine and fertility. The dithyramb is an ancient form that stretches back to the first half of the 7th century BC, when the poet Archilochus wrote about knowing how to lead the fair song of the lord Dionysus when his wits were fused with wine. This captures the spirit of the dithyramb perfectly, as these performances are meant to be spontaneous, passionate, and filled with divine inspiration. When you perform dithyrambs at the festivals of Dionysus, you are not alone. You lead a Greek chorus of up to 50 men or boys who dance in circular formation around you. The energy is electric and powerful as the chorus moves in synchronized steps, while you sing verses that tell stories about Dionysus or celebrate the gifts of wine and fertility that he brings to humanity. The orlos provides accompaniment, its double-reeded sound creating a haunting, otherworldly atmosphere that seems to summon the god's presence. The dithyramb is performed in the Phrygian mode, which the Greeks consider exciting and sensual, perfect for honoring Dionysus, who represents ecstasy and liberation. As you lead the chorus, you feel the rhythm pulsing through your body and theirs, and there are moments when you genuinely feel touched by something divine. The philosopher Socrates once suggested that poets write not by wisdom, but by a sort of genius and inspiration, like diviners or soothsayers who say many fine things but do not understand the meaning of them. When you perform dithyrambs, you understand exactly what he meant, as the words and melodies seem to flow through you from some source beyond yourself. Competitions between choruses performing dithyrambs are a major part of festivals like the Dionysia and lyre in Athens. Each of the 10 Athenian tribes enters 2 choirs, one of men and one of boys, and each choir performs under the leadership of a coryphaeus. The choregos, the wealthy citizen who sponsors and pays for the chorus, receives tremendous honor if his choir wins. A statue is erected at his expense as a public monument to commemorate the victory, and his name is recorded for posterity. As the lead performer, you share in this glory, and winning a dithyrambic competition elevates your reputation throughout Athens. You also perform paeans, which are hymns of praise to Apollo. Plutarch described how the paean contrasts with the wild dithyramb, as the paean is more controlled, dignified, and solemn in character. When you sing a paean, your voice must convey reverence and purity, as Apollo is the god of music, poetry, healing, and prophecy. These hymns are performed at his temples and sanctuaries, especially at Delphi, where his oracle dwells. Religious festivals occupy a significant portion of the Greek calendar, and as a professional performer, you find yourself constantly in demand for these events. The year in Athens alone includes some 100 days that are religious festivals of some sort, though they vary greatly in importance and scale. Some festivals are small local celebrations, while others are grand, pan-Hellenic events that draw visitors from across the Greek world. Most festivals feature processions where you and other musicians walk through the streets playing instruments and singing hymns. These processions make their way to temples where large sacrifices are performed at outdoor altars. The Greeks never performed sacrifices inside temples, as the altar always stands outside in the open air where everyone can witness the ritual. After the sacrifice is complete, there is a great feast where the meat from the sacrificed animals is distributed and eaten by the participants. Your music accompanies all of these activities, from the solemn procession to the joyful feast that follows. As a celebrated performer in ancient Greece, your life is closely intertwined with the rhythm of festivals and the heartbeat of the gods. The calendar is packed with celebrations, both grand and humble, spanning more than a third of the entire year. Some days are filled with the raw excitement of competitive games, while others offer a gentle chance to sing and play in quiet village ceremonies that have been kept alive for centuries. Your schedule never truly empties, it simply swells from formal contests and public rituals to private moments when small groups gather to honor the divine. You wake in the morning to the sound of distant bells and the rising voices of neighbors preparing for a holiday. Light filters through your window, illuminating your home's simple yet artful decor: painted vases, a carved wooden statue of Apollo, finely woven tapestries depicting mythic scenes. You feel grateful for the vibrant culture that surrounds you, for the luck of being born into a civilization that cherishes music, storytelling, and beauty. The 12 Olympian gods and goddesses, Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Athena, Ares, Aphrodite, Apollo, Artemis, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Dionysus, are worshipped in every city, on every island, and among all scattered Greek colonies. Though temples and cult statues are common landmarks, festivals devoted to each deity overflow the boundaries of mere ritual. They erupt into theatrical spectacles, processions, feasts, and competitions. The Pythian, held every 4 years in Athens, is a spectacle you eagerly anticipate. At this festival, the city gathers to honor Athena, the patron goddess whose wisdom is believed to protect the people. The celebrations last several days and include a grand procession winding through the city to the Acropolis. The crowd moves in waves, priests and priestesses, musicians, dancers, athletes, and citizens of every class carrying gifts and offerings. You walk at the head of a band of singers, your lyre slung over your shoulder, ready to perform a hymn for the goddess herself. Your participation is both a privilege and a responsibility. You are a living vessel for tradition, memory, and hope. The competition events at the Panathenea draw talented performers from all corners of Greece. You hear the aulos and cithara echoing through marble halls. Stories told by rhapsodes stir the hearts of their listeners. Friends and rivals gather in friendly rivalry, trading stories of past victories and future dreams. The victors of these musical contests are awarded precious amphoras filled with olive oil from the sacred trees of Athena, a prize both practical and symbolic. The amphoras are painted with intricate scenes that tell your story, immortalizing your achievement and ensuring that your name will be remembered long after the festival's lights have faded. Other festivals fill the year with opportunities for wondrous performance. In spring, the Dionysia in Athens and the Lyre burst with enthusiasm, honoring Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstatic celebration. The city transforms into a carnival of joy, where theatre troupes compete alongside musicians and dancers, and laughter and song fill the streets long after sunset. You take part in wild choruses, performing dithyrambs in honor of Dionysus, your voice mingling with those of dozens of others as your group dances in rhythmic circles. The audience, transported by music and myth, cheers and sings along with you. Religious processions are another staple of Greek life, frequently accompanied by your singing and playing. You gather with others at dawn, preparing to parade through cobbled streets and sacred precincts. Priests carry statues of the gods or special offerings, while the crowd waves branches and sings hymns taught by the elders. The procession ends before a temple altar, where sacrifices are performed in the open air with the whole city as witness. Garlands are draped over the animals whose lives are given in honor of the gods, and prayers rise with the scent of burning incense. The ritual is filled with a sense of mystery and devotion, and your music becomes part of the fabric of the community, weaving together everyone present in shared reverence. You marvel at the diversity of beliefs and practices that shape Greek religion. There is no single holy text or priestly authority. Each city and village upholds its own rituals, adapted to local customs and family traditions. Some choose to worship at home, pouring small libations to the household gods and singing simple songs of thanks and petition. Others attend public ceremonies on grand stages, where elaborate offerings and choral performances reinforce civic unity and the bonds of friendship. Your art connects these worlds. You perform for many, but you also sometimes play quietly for a mother and her children, for a lonely elderly neighbor, for your own family gathered around the hearth. Temple sanctuaries are places of awe and inspiration. You have performed in the cellar of marble temples, surrounded by statues dressed in real clothes and adorned with precious jewelry. These cult images, like the golden Athena Parthenos at the Acropolis or the immense chryselephantine statue of Zeus at Olympia, are believed to house the very presence of the gods. At festival time, you play music in honor of these statues, joining the crowds who travel from afar simply to glimpse the sacred figures and offer their prayers. The sound echoes in the vast halls and open courtyards, blending with laughter, stories, and the clink of amphorae. You notice that religious celebrations open doors for all people, regardless of social rank or age. Women hold special roles as priestesses, chosen from local elite families, presiding over certain festivals and sacrifices. Children participate in rituals like amphidromia, welcoming them into family and city life. Sometimes you perform for these smaller rites, playing gentle melodies as families mark transitions, offer thanks, or seek comfort for their worries. Your days are never quite the same, but always touched by wonder. The constant invitations, the endless creativity, the timeless stories become your source of joy and meaning. Whether you are standing before a roaring crowd in the city theatre, walking in a quiet procession beneath the stars, composing new hymns by lamplight, or sharing music in the humble celebrations of village life, you feel pride in your role. It is a gift to be a pop star in ancient Greece, a life brimming with adventure, purpose, and beauty. Section 6, extended for length and flow. As the light of dawn filters softly into your home, you awaken with excitement for another day woven into the rhythms of ancient Greek religion and celebration. Your room is quiet, but outside you hear voices and distant sounds of the city preparing for a festival. Living as a beloved performer in this age means embracing the constant flow of sacred days, public processions, and private rituals. There's always something happening, always an opportunity to share your art. Religion in ancient Greece permeates every aspect of daily life, giving depth and meaning to your role as a pop star. Unlike in some cultures, the Greeks don't have a single authority or religious text to follow. Instead, their beliefs are shaped by tradition, family stories, and local customs. Each city honors different aspects of the gods, and every town has its own unique ways of celebrating and worshipping. This freedom makes your performances wonderfully varied. One week you might sing a paean to Apollo at his sunlit temple, and the next you are chanting a dithyramb in the shadowy precincts dedicated to Dionysus. Throughout Greece, the 12 Olympian deities are honored in grand temples and simple home altars. Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Athena, Ares, Aphrodite, Apollo, Artemis, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Dionysus. Festivities, both large and small, are held in their honor. Every year in Athens, the Pythian festival is the highlight, drawing crowds from all corners of the city and from distant lands. The entire community, from wealthy nobles to humble farmers, joins processions that snake through the city streets, winding their way toward the Acropolis. Priests and priestesses carry offerings of fruit, wine, and olive oil, while musicians and dancers fill the air with song and movement. You are there, leading a chorus with your instrument, your voice ringing out above thousands of others, honoring Athena in a festival that celebrates unity, wisdom, and beauty. On these festival days, the atmosphere is electric. Markets bustle with vendors selling ribbons, garlands, cakes, and fresh produce. Children run between booths, their laughter mingling with the tunes of street performers. At the grand procession, you feel the collective energy of your city, proud to stand among citizens who recognize your gifts and value your contribution to the celebrations. On stage, your songs blend ancient stories with new compositions, a homage to tradition, but with a signature twist that only you can provide. Competitions are a thrilling part of many festivals. Not only the Pythian Games, but also the Pythian Games at Delphi and the Dionysia in Athens invite musicians, poets, and actors from all over the Greek world to test their talents. When you step onto the competition stage, butterflies flutter in your stomach, but your confidence grows as the audience hushes and judges prepare to listen. You perform with all your skill, breathing life into epic verses and intricate melodies. The prizes can be both symbolic and practical. Laurel wreaths plucked from Apollo's sacred trees, amphoras of olive oil worth a small fortune, or the honor of having your name recorded for posterity by poets like Pindar, who compose victory odes for the champions. But your connection to Greek religion runs much deeper than public contests and grand ceremonies. Many days your art is woven into quieter moments. You're invited to private rituals held at family altars. On the 5th day after a child's birth, relatives gather for the amphidromia, and you sing gentle lullabies, celebrating the arrival of new life and welcoming the baby into the family and city. You help set the tone for weddings with joyful hymns, giving voice to the love and hope that unite newlyweds. In times of loss, you compose and perform funeral laments that both honor the departed and bring comfort to grieving families, your voice guiding them through the rituals that help the soul journey onward. You marvel at the spiritual richness of your world, the grand marble statues of the gods dressed in real clothes and given precious jewelry by worshippers, the altars crowded with offerings, and the sacred groves where stories and music blend with rustling leaves and birdsong. Mystery religions, like the Eleusinian mysteries, promise spiritual awakening to those willing to be initiated. Your songs sometimes invoke these secret rites, echoing legends that only a chosen few truly understand. The multitude of beliefs and practices brings a vibrant diversity to Greek spirituality, and you treasure the chance to play a role in its many forms. Sometimes you perform at the great sanctuaries like Olympia, Delos, or Dodona, where pilgrims from distant lands arrive with gifts and prayers. The sacred precinct bustles with travelers, merchants, priests, and seekers. You watch as the priestess of Apollo, the famous Pythia, delivers cryptic prophecies, her voice trembling with divine inspiration. At other times, you play music for small gatherings of women celebrating fertility festivals, or for quiet processions moving from temple to temple at sunrise. Women in Greek society find recognition and purpose through religious roles as priestesses, presiding over sacrifices and leading certain important rituals. Sometimes you accompany their ceremonies with music, your art intertwining with their prayers. These women are chosen from respected families and often receive special honors, such as public burials marked with songs performed by the city's best artists. The variety of ceremonies, from solemn sacrifices to wild, ecstatic dances, illustrates both the seriousness and playfulness of Greek spirituality. At times, you join processions winding through the streets, carrying torches or branches, chanting songs that everyone knows by heart. At others, you play accompaniment for formal sacrifices, helping the community show gratitude to the gods and to each other. By night, you relax in your courtyard, looking up at the brilliant stars and reflecting on how music, myth, and celebration fill your days with purpose. The city is quiet, but the stories, songs, rituals, and laughter linger in the air. You are grateful for the adventures, the friendships, and the infinite opportunities to share your gifts. Here, as a pop star in ancient Greece, life is a tapestry stretched between the worlds of mortals and gods, between tradition and innovation, and always alive with possibility and joy. As the year rolls on, you find that one of the most exhilarating stages for a performer is the ancient Greek theatre. The theatre is not just an architectural marvel, but a living testament to the spirit and imagination of Athens and its people. When the City Dionysia festival arrives, the entire city transforms into a place of artistic wonder. The festival, dedicated to Dionysus, the god of wine, revelry, and transformation, is both a religious celebration and the glimmering heart of dramatic art in Athens. Crowds gather at the Grand Theatre of Dionysus, located on the southern slope of the Acropolis. The seats carved into the hillside can hold over 14,000 spectators, their faces visible all the way to the back row, thanks to smart acoustic engineering that lets each person hear every word, every sung note, and even the soft-spoken moments. You stand backstage as the sun rises, feeling the anticipation and energy of a city that truly loves its art. The theatre itself is a work of mathematical and physical brilliance, designed so voices and music can fill the space without effort. As a celebrated performer, you are sometimes invited to take part in these monumental productions. Perhaps you join the chorus, dancing and singing in sweeping orchestrated motion as part of an innovative tragedy or a raucous comedy. Or maybe you are chosen to provide music for the interludes, playing the lyre or aulos as actors change masks, switch costumes, and prepare new scenes behind the scenic wall. Some days you are even at the center of your own show, singing a monody loosely accompanied by a cithara, holding the crowd's attention with the pure expressiveness of your voice. The origins of Greek theatre are rooted in religious ritual and mythic storytelling. Long before scripts and playwrights, songs and choruses honored Dionysus with wild dances and dramatic retellings of old legends. And even as plays evolved into tragedy and comedy, the lines between religious ceremony and secular entertainment remained delightfully blurred. You feel this history in your bones every time you step into the orchestra, the dancing place, at the heart of the theatre, knowing that your art springs from centuries of devotion and joy. The competition at the City Dionysia is intense but friendly and inspiring. The best playwrights, actors and musicians from all over Greece arrive for the chance to debut their new tragedies and comedies. Every performer feels the thrill of anticipation as judges assemble, prepared to rank the shows and award great honors. Think of names like Aeschylus and Sophocles, whose works will be performed for centuries, and imagine what it feels like to be part of a festival where those legends live and breathe. Even if you're not the main actor, being part of the winning chorus or ensemble is a mark of distinction that will be remembered by your city long after the festival ends. The theatre's pageantry is striking. Actors wear elaborate costumes and stylized masks, transforming themselves into gods, heroes, kings, and even ordinary men and women. Only 2 or 3 actors are allowed on the stage at a time, but the chorus fills the space with commentary, emotion, and insight. You find the experience heart-stopping, watching the transformation as the masked faces vanish and mythical persona are conjured before the crowd. It's impossible not to feel the energy of thousands hanging on each gesture and word. Backstage, actors and musicians share stories from previous performances, laugh over mishaps, and swap tips on voice projection. The chorus is a tight-knit group, relying on each other for timing, pitch, and dramatic effect. You exchange glances and subtle cues, part of a living machine that brings the entire story to life. Whether you're wearing a tragic mask painted with grief or a comic mask grinning from ear to ear, you know that the shape of your art is determined by tradition and innovation alike. The festival performances last from morning into the evening, each show a marathon of endurance and focus. The audience is engaged, laughing, weeping, occasionally exclaiming in surprise or delight when a particularly clever line or bit of stagecraft unfolds. You notice as the play's themes shift from love to ambition, from family strife to city-wide catastrophe, always returning to the gods and the destiny of mortals. Behind the scenery, you glimpse the elaborate props and costumes, each one chosen for its power to evoke mythic resonance or comic exaggeration. After the final performance, the city hosts feasts for the competitors. Whether you sing at the main gathering or join a smaller group to play music at the local inn, there is always a celebratory mood. Sometimes the mayor or a wealthy citizen offers a prize, a gilded crown or an ornate amphora, recognizing your contribution to the festival and the joy your music brought to both citizens and visitors. Fame from a great festival performance ripples outward, inviting new opportunities to perform for wealthy patrons and to inspire other artists around the Greek world. Tragedy and comedy alike offer you, the performer, a sense of purpose and place in society. The stories you help bring to life are both cautionary and celebratory. They mirror ancient wisdom, rave about the folly of pride, extol the virtues of courage and hope, and lampoon the hypocrisy of those in power. And all of it comes together at the heart of the city, before the watching gods, in the context of a festival that embraces the people, the playwrights, and the musicians as essential to life itself. As the festival draws to a close and you wander home beneath lantern-lit streets, you reflect on another year's success, the echoes of your music lingering in the air long after the crowds have gone. You feel proud to be a pop star in ancient Greece, not just celebrated, but deeply needed, woven into the lives of your friends, family, and community. It is a joyful, beautiful life where art and story truly matter, and where every performance is both an offering and a celebration. Amid all the dramatic spectacles and public celebrations, a crucial part of your life as a pop star in ancient Greece is lyric poetry, a form that drifts between the public festival and the intimacy of quiet gatherings. Lyric poetry is, most simply, poetry meant to be sung, accompanied by the gentle harmonies of a lyre or sometimes a kithara or aulos. It's a genre deeply connected to emotion and music, composed to be performed both in private settings and for crowds that pack the halls of your city. The lyric age of Greece spans centuries, and its poets are among the brightest stars of ancient artistry. Their works celebrate love, beauty, athletic victories, friendships, and the struggles and triumphs of everyday life. You know their lines by heart. Sometimes you even dedicate an evening to performing classics by Sappho, Alcaeus, or Pindar, letting their words blend with your own new compositions. Much of Greek lyric is occasional poetry, composed for special events. At a symposium, the refined drinking party of Athens' lyric songs filled a room with laughter and warmth. These poems are clever, witty, and touching, their themes ranging from seduction to playful banter, from heartfelt longing to biting invective. You perform scholia, exchanging poetic lines with guests, improvising melodies and phrases as everyone drinks and relaxes, their faces shining in the lamplight. Other lyric forms commemorate great moments. Eponychia, or victory odes, praise the achievements of athletes at games and competitions. Sappho's verses immortalize love and desire, often capturing the nuance of relationships in a few crystalline lines. Sometimes you sing hymns, paeans, and dithyrambs, giving praise to the gods, shaping the tone of religious festivals and processions. In Athens, the chorus remains a vital force. Whether you're leading a group of young men through a maiden song at a festival or training children to sing for a family occasion, the art of lyric poetry connects you to the living tradition of your city. Maiden songs, Parthenia, are performed by choruses of girls at festivals, marking moments of community and transition. You marvel at the joy and innocence in their harmonies, the way music brings generations together. The technical side of lyric poetry is complex and fascinating. Greek poetry does not rely on the stresses and rhythms familiar to English verse. Instead, its meters dance on patterns of long and short syllables. Learning these meters is part of your lifelong education. You experiment with ionic, aeolic, and dactylo-epitrite forms, shaping your verses to fit the event, the audience, and your own mood. Lyric performance is both a solo and a communal art. Sometimes you stand alone, the crowd hanging on your every word, every gesture. At other moments, you hide in the collective sound of the chorus, your voice weaving through friends and strangers. The interplay between individual and group gives Greek music its signature magic. It embraces both the passion of the solo artist and the power of shared song. Being a master of lyric poetry means you are welcome everywhere, at lavish parties, at festivals, at the city theatre, and in homes. Your songs can comfort, inspire, provoke, or amuse. They are called for at weddings, at funerals, in the heat of competition, and during the quiet hours of friendship and reflection. Beyond the entertainment, lyric poetry is a way for Greeks to make sense of their world. Poems exhort warriors to valor, celebrate youth and beauty, and reflect on age, money, and politics. Even difficult emotions and conflicts find expression in these songs, allowing the community to name its joys and wounds together. Sometimes you perform invective poetry, satirizing those who have wronged you or your friends. It's an art to entertain with humor and a touch of sharp truth. As you walk home through moonlit streets, verses echo in your mind. You remember each performance, a perfect melody, a clever turn of phrase, a heartfelt reaction from your audience. You're reminded again and again that being a pop star in ancient Greece means belonging to a living lineage of lyric poets, beloved artists who shaped the emotions and memories of their time. Lyric poetry keeps your life endlessly fascinating. One night might bring the electric thrill of triumph at a public contest. The next might be a gentle serenade for a friend's wedding, followed by a night spent composing alone, searching for just the right words for a new festival hymn. Wherever you go, your music lingers, a soft thread connecting people, stories, celebrations, and dreams. And perhaps, centuries from now, some fragment of your song will survive, a verse discovered on worn papyrus, sung smoothly by a new artist, a reminder of your place both in the history and the heart of ancient Greece. If you are truly lucky, you might find yourself performing alongside, or perhaps in honor of, one of the legends of Greek poetry, Sappho of Lesbos. Even in her own time, Sappho was celebrated as an unrivaled lyric artist, revered throughout Greece as the 10th muse, and simply known as the poetess in the same way Homer was revered as the poet. Her verses radiated clarity, vivid imagery, and a sense of direct emotion that left listeners speechless. Most of her poetry has vanished with time, yet you and your fellow performers still sing the fragments that survive, weaving her words into the emotional tapestry of ancient life. Stories about Sappho float through every symposium and festival. She was born to a wealthy family on the island of Lesbos, in the city of Mytilene or Eressos. Her early years were marked by comfort and education, giving her access to the best teachers, fellow artists, and all the music her heart desired. It was said that she had 3 brothers, Charaxos, Larichos, and Eurygios, and one poems from her hand lovingly praised Larichos for his service as a cupbearer, a symbol of noble upbringing. Wealth and birth offered opportunities, but it was Sappho's poetic genius that made her a legend. When Sappho sang, she often spoke in the first person, pouring out feelings of passion, longing, joy, and sometimes heartbreak. One of her most famous surviving verses recounts a nearly overwhelming desire on seeing a beloved. "He seems like a god to me, the man who is near you, listening to your sweet voice and exquisite laughter that makes my heart so wildly beat in my breast." Her poetry captured moments so immediate and tangible that even the greatest minds in Athens, philosophers and lawmakers alike, were moved by her songs. People said that Solon himself wished to learn only one Sappho song so that he could die having known true poetry. Not much is certain about Sappho's life. Some legends say that she was exiled to Sicily around 600 BC, perhaps due to political conflict on Lesbos, and there she may have continued her art until her death. A romantic legend, probably invented centuries after her life, holds that she threw herself from the Leucadian cliffs for the love of a ferryman named Phaon. But you, the performer, know that such stories are more about myth and mystery than cold fact. What matters is the legacy of Sappho's music and the way her verses speak to love, family, and ritual in ways few others have ever matched. When you perform Sappho's poetry, sometimes with your own melody, sometimes following ancient tradition, you sense her influence echoing through every note. Her songs were written to be sung with a barbiton or lyre, with each syllable likely matching a note in the melody, a practice that gave her lyrics a quality both direct and powerful. Her style favoured monody, a single melodic line, a departure from older choral traditions, granting her poems a new intimacy and opportunity for individual emotional expression. Sappho's themes leap from erotic love to reflections on family, to the rituals that mark life's most profound transitions. Some fragments recount the ceremonies of wedding and cult, while others focus on private moments of longing and loss. The language glimmers with wordplay, vivid metaphor, and the subtle glow of hyperbole. She writes of brides who stand out among Lydian women as the rose-fingered moon exceeds all stars, riffing on the Homeric image of rosy-fingered dawn. She praises the beauty of friendship and the sadness of departure, weaving her audience into every song. That's part of the magic. Sappho's poetry is both universal and deeply personal. Ancient critics raved about her ability to speak with fiery clarity. The historian Plutarch said she mingles words truly with fire. Her works shaped lyric poetry for centuries, inspiring later Greek poets, Roman artists, and generations of lyric singers, each carrying her voice into new places and new hearts. In your own life, Sappho's songs are a favourite choice for intimate gatherings, a friend's wedding, a slow afternoon in an olive grove, a quiet festival under the stars. On grand stages, her verses elevate ceremonies, making every listener feel as though the poem were meant just for them. Even centuries later, fragments of Sappho's poetry are preserved on papyrus and potsherds, quoted by writers, remembered by musicians, cherished by the people of Greece and beyond. There is something special about knowing that, as a pop star in ancient Greece, you belong to the same tradition as Sappho. Her influence runs through every lyric poet, every performer, and every lover of music. Your songs, and hers, travel from performance halls to the humblest village, creating lines of connection that overcome time and distance. You can feel the responsibility and the joy of helping keep these ancient melodies alive, day after day, year after year. You dream of composing a poem that will live as long as Sappho's, as complete and tender, as vivid and beloved, for your city, for your friends, for the gods themselves. Tonight, perhaps, after the laughter fades and the audience drifts off to sleep, you whisper one of Sappho's lines to the cool night air, letting the stars carry it onward, part of the endless chorus of pop stars who have shaped ancient Greece. As your fame grows and your artistry deepens, you find yourself surrounded by fellow performers, poets, and musicians whose styles and personalities create a vibrant artistic community. Some nights, you gather at candlelit tables in wealthy homes or cozy taverns, sharing stories and songs long after the official festivities end. These are the nights when music flows free, when laughter and improvisation spark new inspiration. The lines between performer and audience blur. Everyone sings, everyone shares, everyone belongs. You trade verses with friends who traveled from Corinth, Sparta, or distant islands. One evening, an actor from Syracuse tells stories of wild theatre shows in Sicily, where tragedy and comedy mix with local myths and rivalries. Another night, a rhapsode from Ionia performs epic lines from Homer, his voice thunderous and grand, stirring the room with images of storm-tossed ships and heroic battles. Sometimes you improvise with these wandering artists, blending your lyric melodies into their tales, exchanging poetic riddles and clever wordplay. Music and poetry woven through conversation give you a sense of the broader artistic world in which you live. People praise your technical command over Greek meters. Sometimes you perform verses in the Aeolic dialect, a softer, melodic tongue reminiscent of Sappho's island. Other times, you shift into the strong, terse rhythms of Dorian or the intricate melodies of Lydian and Phrygian modes. The best evenings are those where you experiment, composing together new songs that blend traditional forms with daring invention. These poet-musician gatherings foster friendship and create opportunities as well. Word quickly travels along the ancient Greek grapevine. Soon, patrons from distant cities send invitations, hoping you'll join their festival or private party and bring your music to their people. You pack your instruments and a few best-loved poems, setting out on a journey along dusty roads or by ship across the sparkling Aegean Sea, always keeping an eye on the shifting colours of dawn and dusk, which you know will inspire your next lyric. Traveling through Greece as a pop star is a delight. The rich agricultural landscapes, the high mountains, the bustling port cities all open before you, offering fresh audiences and new adventures. You learn local songs and customs everywhere you go. In Boeotia, you sing with the famous Theban choirs known for their precise harmonies and powerful festival hymns. In Olympia and Delphi, you perform for crowds gathered beneath sacred statues and olive groves, your voice carrying into the dusk as people offer thanks to the gods. Just as Sappho did centuries before, you weave together motifs of love, longing, and wonder, carrying poetry in your heart from place to place. Sometimes you find yourself invited as the centerpiece of a noble's grand celebration. Other times, you play your lyre beside a village well, the simple joy in the faces of farmers and artisans reminding you that music is a universal language. Children gather around, repeating the chorus, learning the words that their grandparents cherished. Sometimes your travels bring you to places of myth and mystery. You stand atop the cliffs of Lesbos, staring out at the wine-dark sea, imagining Sappho's famous leap and letting the crash of the waves inspire lines for a new song. On the bustling streets of Athens, you see marble temples bathed in sunlight, stopping for a moment to honor Athena and the spirit of learning she represents. At night in Delphi, you whisper prayers to Apollo, feeling the pulse of prophecy in your veins. In these moments away from the stage and the crowd, you reflect on what it means to be a pop star in ancient Greece. You are a traveler, a philosopher, a storyteller. You create beauty wherever you are welcomed, whatever instruments and voices join you. Every step in your journey adds depth to your music. Every new encounter sparks a poem or melody that might one day be sung by others, carried forward in an unbroken tradition. Your work transforms not only your own life, but those of countless people who hear your art. you become a bridge across cities, generations, customs, and languages. You know, as you drift off to sleep beneath the starry Greek sky, that stories and songs make people feel alive, make them dream, help them remember the best moments and endure the worst. Tomorrow brings another festival, another wedding, another private celebration or public contest. Your lyre is always ready, your voice warmed and limber, your heart open to inspiration. You are a pop star in ancient Greece, living a life of endless movement, music and meaning, one that you would never trade for anything else. The world in which you live and perform is shaped by myth as much as by music. Greek mythology, with its cast of gods, heroes and legendary creatures, surrounds you everywhere. From the stories repeated in the marketplace and temple to the vivid paintings and sculptures that adorn homes, public squares and festival grounds. These myths are not just tales for children or the idle rich, they are the pulse of your culture, woven into every ceremony, song, and conversation. As a pop star in ancient Greece, you become a storyteller as well as a singer. Your performances draw upon ancient narrative deposits, from the fearless exploits of Heracles to the beauty and power of Aphrodite, from the wisdom of Athena to the tragic love stories of mortal heroes and heroines. Epic poetry and myth give form and depth to your lyrics, connecting your voice not only to present audiences, but also to centuries of tradition. The myths have been passed down in hundreds of surviving texts and thousands of oral recitations. You learn from Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, the timeless stories of war, homeward longing, and heroism. You study Hesiod's Theogony, and you sing passages from the Homeric hymns, each invoking a different deity with praise and storytelling. Your repertoire is immense. Each festival, each family celebration, and each city has its favorite stories and legendary figures. Music and poetry bring the myths to life. In vivid detail, you narrate how Zeus took the throne from the Titans, how clever Hermes invented the lyre, how Apollo conquered the serpent Python, and how Persephone descended into the underworld, transforming the seasons. Sometimes, your performances are dramatic retellings of entire myth cycles, like Jason and the Argonauts searching for the Golden Fleece, or Odysseus outwitting monsters and gods to return home. Audiences sit transfixed, repeating the most memorable lines for weeks after the event. Even the rituals and processions you help lead are steeped in mythology. Festivals reenact the arrival of Dionysus in Athens, the sacred marriage of Zeus and Hera, or the founding of a famous city by a mythic hero. You sing the ceremonial odes, your voice carrying the weight of centuries, knowing that each performance not only delights the crowd, but also invokes the power and presence of the gods themselves. On stage, you embrace the ambiguity and richness of myth. Some tales are comic, poking fun at the foibles of divine and mortal alike, like clever Prometheus stealing fire from the gods, or mischievous Artemis transforming hunters into stags. Others are tragic, exploring the shadowy depths of fate, love, and vengeance, like the sufferings of Oedipus, the wanderings of Heracles, or the doomed love of Orpheus for Eurydice. In all these stories, your music acts as a bridge between the living and the mythic, offering comfort, wisdom, and excitement. Your audience includes scholars, priests, and ordinary citizens, all eager to hear fresh takes on legendary stories. Historians and poets come to your shows, taking notes and relaying your performances to distant parts of Greece. Sometimes they ask you to compose a new hymn for a temple dedication, or a song to accompany a special sacrifice, describing the hero's journey or the origin of their city's sacred traditions. You see references to myth everywhere in proverbs, family names, folk customs, and even in the games children play. Young boys reenact the labors of Heracles or the swift races of Atalanta. Girls sing wedding songs inspired by Aphrodite and Hera. Temple priests and traveling philosophers draw moral lessons from myth, telling you that the tales of punished hubris or rewarded humility offer wisdom for everyone. Artists in your community bring myths to life in stone and pottery, Sculptors carve scenes from the Trojan War or the journey of Perseus. Painters depict the dramatic chase of Apollo and Daphne or the judgment of Paris that set the world ablaze. At every public celebration, your music carries their stories into the open air, linking the visual and poetic arts in one glorious chorus. The influence of myth reaches into later ages too. Roman poets and dramatists adapt Greek stories for new audiences. Renaissance artists rediscover the old legends and paint gods in heavenly glory. Even in recent times, philosophers and writers debate the meaning of ancient Greek myths, arguing about their moral lessons and hidden meanings. Yet for you, living as a pop star in ancient Greece, the myth is alive and immediate, the source of endless creativity, comfort, and joy. Your music gives new life to ancient stories and wisdom, letting each generation of listeners see themselves in the struggles and triumphs of gods and heroes. Whether you perform in a crowded theatre, at a festival under the stars, or in the quiet of a village home, myth connects you to the deepest roots of Greek civilization, the dreams, hopes, challenges, and laughter of all who came before you. As you lay down your instrument each evening, you rest easy, knowing that your songs shape how people remember and understand their world. You are more than an entertainer. You are a keeper of memory, a bridge between myth and reality, forever weaving ancient stories into the living music of your age. Waking up in a city shaped by myth and filled with music, you step out into the Athenian morning with endless possibilities waiting for you. Even ordinary days in ancient Greece shimmer with inspiration for an artist and performer. The city itself is a canvas of stories. You walk past statues of gods, painted scenes on pottery, marble shrines tucked into street corners, and bustling markets alive with the chatter of citizens exchanging not only bread and olives, but fragments of songs, jokes, and news from the latest festival. Your immediate world hums with echoes of the stories you've sung so many times. Shopkeepers reference the cleverness of Odysseus when haggling over prices. Fishermen tell tall tales of encountering Triton, Poseidon's messenger with his conch shell. Friends gather at lunch to debate whether Achilles or Hector was the greater hero, quoting verses from the Iliad between bites of roasted lamb. And you, the pop star, have the honor and pleasure of making these myths more alive and more magical with every performance. Some days begin with a walk to the gymnasium, where you observe young athletes training for the next games. Their instructors shout encouragement, comparing their efforts to Hercules and his legendary labors. You greet a few familiar faces, men and women you met during your last musical contest. There is admiration in their eyes and a gentle teasing about when you'll compose a new victory ode for the athletes of Athens. Later, you stroll through the agora, the open market, where vendors call out offers for fresh figs, olive oil, and woven sandals. The rows are filled with bright fabrics, fragrant spices, and statues both large and small. As you pass a potter's stall, you pause to admire a crater painted with the myth of Perseus rescuing Andromeda. The artist is eager to show you his latest work, a vase depicting Apollo with his lyre, surrounded by a chorus of muses, the inspiration for every musician and poet in Greece. You chat about art and music, exchanging ideas for future collaborations. Perhaps a song inspired by the adventures of Theseus and the Minotaur, performed at the next festival. On quieter afternoons, you escape the crowds to a peaceful spot outside the city walls. The hills and olive groves offer shade and solitude, perfect for composing new songs or finding inspiration from the changing seasons. You study the flight of birds across the sky, thinking of the mythical transformation of gods and heroes like Zeus as an eagle or Hermes with his winged sandals. Sometimes, farmers pause their work to listen as you sing to the dawn, and children gather for impromptu lessons, learning old melodies and the stories entwined within them. You are never alone in your creativity. The artistic community of Athens thrives in every corner. In the afternoons, you join fellow poets, actors, and musicians for sessions that last long into the evening. Lyricists practice their meters, playwrights test new scenes, and dancers experiment with steps inspired by mythic battles and divine revelries. You improvise with others, weaving together a tapestry of music and story that grows richer with every shared effort. When ideas strike, someone rushes to write them down on a wax tablet or scraps of papyrus. Living as a pop star in this vibrant city means always having an audience. Sometimes you perform for a handful of family members in a candlelit courtyard, sometimes for hundreds at the foot of the Parthenon, sometimes for the entire city in a theatre carved from the hillside. Every listener is eager for something new, a clever lyric, a retelling of a favourite myth, or a piece that captures the feeling of the moment. Nights in Athens are just as full of magic as the days. The city glows with lanterns and torches. The Acropolis watches over the city, its silhouette outlined against the stars. On festival evenings, the streets overflow with laughter, music, and the aroma of baked bread and sweet wine. You join processions winding through neighborhoods, singing hymns and odes with chorus and crowd alike, your voice rising with theirs as everyone honors the gods. The beauty of your world lies in its variety. You compose for judges and for friends, for the chorus and for lovers, for the old and the young. You tell stories that counsel courage, inspire kindness, and remind your audience of the eternal bonds between mortals and their gods. Sometimes you weave cautionary tales about hubris or love gone awry, and laughter mingles with tears as people hear themselves in the ancient myths. In the quiet hours before sleep, you reflect on the impact of your art. Every song, every poem, every story ever sung or spoken forms all the threads that tie people together. Your life is a dance between tradition and innovation, myth and reality, solitude and celebration. As you lay in your bed listening to the last echoes of music drifting through the night air, you know with certainty to be a pop star in ancient Greece is to live at the very heart of a brilliant, creative, storied civilization. Every day is an adventure, every note a celebration, every word a chance to shape the history and dreams of your people. And tomorrow, once more, those stories will begin anew. Your daily life as a pop star in ancient Greece unfolds across a rich social tapestry that's as intricate as the music you create. The social structure of Greek cities like Athens, Corinth, and Sparta is layered and vibrant, shaping every interaction, every celebration, and every career path. As an artist, you find yourself mingling with people from many walks of life: aristocrats, merchants, craftspeople, priests, and sometimes even foreign visitors and wandering storytellers. Society is organized in distinct classes, but music has the rare power to transcend boundaries. The top tier in a city-state like Athens is the aristocracy, wealthy landowners whose families have held influence for generations. If you're born into such a family, you have access to an excellent education: music, poetry, rhetoric, philosophy, and athletics. You are taught by master musicians, able to afford the finest instruments, and welcomed into elite gatherings and public events. Your reputation is built not just on skill, but on connections and the ability to impress influential audiences. Even if you come from humbler beginnings, your talent as a performer can lift you into circles you might otherwise never reach. Merchants and tradespeople who make the city thrive through commerce are always eager to host the best entertainment at weddings, festivals, and private banquets. Your music, your stories, and your charm become tickets to a more comfortable life. People recognize that artists can travel between social realms, serving as messengers, entertainers, even minor diplomats, passing news and building bridges throughout the community. The priests and priestesses hold special authority, overseeing temples, rituals, and sacrifices. You perform for them at public ceremonies and sacred festivals. Sometimes, after your performance, you receive gifts from temple treasuries: gold coins, good food, maybe even temporary lodging. These connections matter, especially when important doors open for a performer with an established reputation. Your popularity may bring you invitations from prominent families hoping to honor the gods, celebrate marriages, or give their children the best possible parties. At banquets, symposiums, and feast days, you share music with the wealthy and powerful, but also bring delight to servants, cooks, and attendants who listen from the edges. In ancient Greece, art and entertainment ripple outward, touching every class and every street. Some days you play for ordinary citizens in the bustling agora or market. Women gather to buy grain and fruit, men debate politics and plans for upcoming games. Children, their eyes wide with wonder, stop to hear your songs and stories. Everyone participates in city life in some way. Everyone has occasion to celebrate a victory, mourn a loss, or welcome a holiday with music. At night, the boundaries between classes fade as crowds gather to watch drama or choral performances in open-air theatres. Rich and poor alike become part of the communal audience, united by love for beautiful melodies and gripping tales. You often reflect on how music is the great equalizer. Whether you sing for a king, a merchant, a farmer, or a child on the street, your art reaches hearts, inspires dreams, and weaves the city together. Foreigners and travellers sometimes appear at your shows. Traders from Egypt, Persia, or Italy, curious about Greek fashions and music. Music is one of the fastest ways to build friendships across borders. Sometimes you learn new melodies or share tunes that carry echoes of distant lands, further expanding your reputation and the reach of your voice. Life in ancient Greece can be challenging, especially for those living outside the aristocracy. But the shared language of music and the opportunities it creates mean that your days are filled with new faces, new chances, and new stories to tell. You learn to adapt, to make friends quickly, to charm audiences both large and small. Perhaps at the end of a successful performance, as the crowds disperse and the city quiets for sleep, you take a moment to savor the truth. Being a pop star in ancient Greece means living at the very heart of society, a bridge between worlds, a voice among many, and a source of joy for all who have ears to listen. Women are an ever-present, if often overlooked, part of your world as a pop star in ancient Greece. Their roles, freedoms, and influence vary depending on the city-state, the era, and the class to which they belong. But their impact on Greek music, poetry, and daily life is always there, sometimes in the spotlight, more often behind the scenes. In Athens, where you might live and perform, women's lives unfold mostly within the oikos, the household. Classical Athenian women are excluded from political and most public life, expected to marry young, manage domestic affairs, weave textiles, and raise children. Their world is guided by the authority of the male kurios, first a father, then a husband, and girls typically enter arranged marriages by their mid-teens. Yet, even under these strict limits, women find ways to express themselves and connect with the festival culture that dominates Greek existence. Music and religion are two realms where women shine brightest. Religious festivals often require the participation of women, both as priestesses and celebrants. The Themophoria, a festival honoring Demeter, is for women alone, an event marked by mysteries and rituals from which men are barred. Women join in processions, carry sacred objects, sing hymns, and offer prayers for the city's well-being. In these moments they move freely through the city, their presence essential to the fabric of Greek society. You notice this particularly during certain festivals when the women's chorus takes center stage in the theatre, performing Parthenaea maiden songs filled with ancient stories and prayers for prosperity. Their harmonies are haunting, their steps measured and proud. Young girls, trained in music and dance, have the chance to participate in community life and win acclaim that lingers into adulthood. In private, women are the keepers of family tradition. They sing lullabies, compose laments for lost loved ones, and tell stories that pass on history and values to the next generation. Some are renowned for their talent and charisma, like Sappho of Lesbos, whose poetry is beloved by both men and women, and whose fame as an artist and teacher reaches far across the Greek world. Outside Athens, the picture can be quite different. In Sparta, the handful of free-born women enjoy unprecedented freedom. They manage large estates while their husbands are at war, own property, and are respected as mothers of warriors. They train their bodies in athletics alongside the boys, their physical fitness and confidence admired throughout Greece. Spartan women are known to speak directly, even sharply, in public, and are celebrated in local songs and sayings. Their role as mothers, landowners, and strong-willed citizens challenges the Athenian ideal of quiet seclusion. Other regions, like Gortyn on Crete, give women even more legal and economic rights. There, women can appear in court, own property outright, and divorce with a degree of independence rare anywhere else in the Greek world. Women's names sometimes appear in public records, attached to major donations or dedications at temples. Yet, most women's stories remain in the private, domestic sphere. Art and pottery from the period depict women as both muses and everyday figures, preparing food, tending fires, fetching water, weaving at the loom, or gazing through an open doorway. Sometimes they're featured in mythological scenes, their roles as goddesses, queens, lovers, or victims given dramatic expression by painters and poets alike. Some professions remain open to women as well, entertainment and music among them. In a world where the line between public performance and private celebration blurs, upper-class hetero elite courtesans achieve fame and considerable independence by entertaining at symposia, composing and performing poetry, and sometimes even influencing politics through the friendships they maintain with powerful men. You learn, as your career unfolds, that women in your audience, and sometimes on stage with you, are crucial to the music and stories that shape Greek life. Their voices ring out in chorus, in prayer, and in the sweet songs that mark every birth, wedding, and funeral. You collaborate with them and sometimes compete, inspired by their resilience and intuition, grateful for the harmony they help create in the lived music of your world. Observing all this, you realize that while ancient Greece is a man's world on the surface, the song that rises through its temples, homes, and city streets could never exist without the women who sing, nurture, inspire, and lead. Women are an ever-present, if often overlooked, part of your world as a pop star in ancient Greece. Their roles, freedoms, and influence vary depending on the city-state, the era, and the class to which they belong. But their impact on Greek music, poetry, and daily life is always there, sometimes in the spotlight, more often behind the scenes. In Athens, where you might live and perform, women's lives unfold mostly within the oikos, the household. Classical Athenian women are excluded from political and most public life, expected to marry young, manage domestic affairs, weave textiles, and raise children. Their world is guided by the authority of the male Kyrios, first a father, then a husband, and girls typically enter arranged marriages by their mid-teens. Yet even under these strict limits, women find ways to express themselves and connect with the festival culture that dominates Greek existence. Music and religion are two realms where women shine brightest. Religious festivals often require the participation of women, both as priestesses and celebrants. The Themaphoria, a festival honouring Demeter, is for women alone, an event marked by mysteries and rituals from which men are barred. Women join in processions, carry sacred objects, sing hymns, and offer prayers for the city's well-being. In these moments they move freely through the city, their presence essential to the fabric of Greek society. You notice this particularly during certain festivals when the women's chorus takes centre stage in the theatre, performing Parthenia maiden songs filled with ancient stories and prayers for prosperity. Their harmonies are haunting, their steps measured and proud. Young girls trained in music and dance have the chance to participate in community life and win acclaim that lingers into adulthood. In private, women are the keepers of family tradition. They sing lullabies, compose laments for lost loved ones, and tell stories that pass on history and values to the next generation. Some are renowned for their talent and charisma, like Sappho of Lesbos, whose poetry is beloved by both men and women, and whose fame as an artist and teacher reaches far across the Greek world. Outside Athens, the picture can be quite different. In Sparta, the handful of freeborn women enjoy unprecedented freedom. They manage large estates while their husbands are at war, own property, and are respected as mothers of warriors. They train their bodies in athletics alongside the boys, their physical fitness and confidence admired throughout Greece. Spartan women are known to speak directly, even sharply, in public and are celebrated in local songs and sayings. Their role as mothers, landowners, and strong-willed citizens challenges the Athenian ideal of quiet seclusion. Other regions, like Gortyn on Crete, give women even more legal and economic rights. There, women can appear in court, own property outright, and divorce with a degree of independence rare anywhere else in the Greek world. Women's names sometimes appear in public records, attached to major donations or dedications at temples. Yet most women's stories remain in the private domestic sphere. Art and pottery from the period depict women as both muses and everyday figures, preparing food, tending fires, fetching water, weaving at the loom, or gazing through an open doorway. Sometimes they're featured in mythological scenes, their roles as goddesses, queens, lovers, or victims given dramatic expression by painters and poets alike. Some professions remain open to women as well, entertainment and music among them. In a world where the line between public performance and private celebration blurs, upper-class heteri elite courtesans achieve fame and considerable independence by entertaining at symposia, composing and performing poetry, and sometimes even influencing politics through the friendships they maintain with powerful men. You learn, as your career unfolds, that women in your audience, and sometimes on stage with you, are crucial to the music and stories that shape Greek life. Their voices ring out in chorus, in prayer, and in the sweet songs that mark every birth, wedding, and funeral. You collaborate with them and sometimes compete, inspired by their resilience and intuition, grateful for the harmony they help create in the lived music of your world. Observing all this, you realize that while ancient Greece is a man's world on the surface, the song that rises through its temples, homes, and city streets could never exist without the women who sing, nurture, inspire, and lead. Nowhere is your life as a pop star in ancient Greece more vibrant than in the bustling city of Athens. Athens is the true heart of civilization and creativity, a city famous for its rich history, stunning architecture, and constant reinvention. There are days when you wander the crowded streets and feel the pulse of something timeless, a spirit of art and democracy that makes your world sing. Everywhere you walk, ancient monuments break the skyline. The Acropolis rises above everything, crowned by the Parthenon, which gleams in the sunlight, an icon of wisdom and civilization. Once a year, the festival of the Panathenea draws people from all over the region. You lead a chorus through busy markets and painted lanes, your songs echoing across marble, stone, and the soft earth beneath the olive trees. Musicians gather in the shadow of grand temples, competing for honor, applause, and precious amphoras of sacred olive oil. Life in Athens is a constant swirl of public events. The Agora, the city's great marketplace, is always full of voices, politicians making speeches, merchants haggling over goods, friends sharing gossip or songs. You pass the arts district where sculptors hammer marble and painters sketch mythic scenes onto pottery and walls. Everyone calls out your name, eager for a new melody or the cleverest retelling of a favorite myth. Sometimes you stop and perform an impromptu concert for a crowd of strangers, the applause quickly attracting even more listeners until the square is humming with joy. The city's intellectual life is just as lively. You are invited frequently to join debates and discussions with philosophers, students, and visiting scholars. Musicians and poets mingle with thinkers in sunlit courtyards, exchanging new ideas, experimenting with musical innovations, and teasing out the mysteries of rhythm, melody, and epic storytelling. You learn from artists young and old. Some evenings are spent in raucous laughter, while others bring serious reflection on virtue, beauty, and the meaning behind every lyric. Athens is a city of festivals and celebration, but also a city of challenges and dreams. Streets are lined with bakeries, theatres, shops selling sweet wines, and busy tavernas filled to bursting with music every night. The seasons bring changes. Spring brings flower and wine festivals. The heat of summer is filled with torchlit celebrations and open-air performances, Autumn marks the beginning of athletic games and citywide contests. Winter is for private gatherings and quiet story nights by the fire. The climate is gentle, adding golden warmth to your days and cool serenity to the evenings. Sometimes you travel down to the Athens Riviera, playing a serenade by the sea as the sun sets over the shimmering blue. You explore leafy gardens, climb the surrounding hills for inspiration, or stroll through ancient groves where the air smells of wild thyme and mountain pine. It's easy for your music to find a home in Athens. Theatre troupes vie for your accompaniment. Holy days call for hymn singers, processions, and choral arrangements. And through it all, the city retains a sense of optimism and adventure. Even in challenging times, the people of Athens look to festivals, art, and music for hope and unity. You are not just a performer here. You are part of a grand lineage, one citizen among thousands, responsible for keeping Athens lively, clever, and beautiful. Your art knits together not only individuals, but the whole fabric of democracy, tradition, and innovation. When you stand on a stage in Athens, beneath the watchful gaze of Athena herself, you know you are helping shape the city's identity, one song, one story, one magical day at a time. Sometimes your travels and performances take you to Corinth, one of the most prosperous and cosmopolitan cities in ancient Greece. Nestled on the narrow isthmus that connects the mainland to the Peloponnese, Corinth flourishes as a major trade hub, its streets buzzing with merchants, sailors, artisans, and travelers from every corner of the Mediterranean. This diversity adds excitement and possibility to your life as a performer. Every audience in Corinth is a unique blend of cultures, dialects, and tastes. Arriving in Corinth, you quickly notice the city's vibrant energy. Its markets overflow with exotic goods, Egyptian perfumes, Phoenician cloth, Etruscan pottery, and fresh produce from the surrounding plains. The impressive temples and civic monuments tell the stories of Corinth's past, the rise of powerful ruling families, the ancient legends carved into stone, the victories celebrated in grand processions. Music rings out from temples dedicated to Aphrodite, Apollo, and Poseidon. Priests and priestesses invite you to contribute songs and hymns, each with their own forms and traditions, and you find yourself learning at every step. Corinth's role as a city of trade means that money and status can shift quickly, and for a pop star, work is always available for those with flexibility and a bit of daring. You might be hired to perform at the home of a wealthy merchant whose fortunes rise with every new shipment, entertaining guests at lavish banquets, or perhaps you join in neighborhood celebrations for successful harvests or the dedication of a new street-side shrine. You even get the chance to compose songs for visiting dignitaries, adapting your lyrics and melodies to impress both Greek audiences and foreigners who are curious about your art. Life in Corinth is not just about wealth and spectacle, it's famously a city of sensuality and charisma. The Temple of Aphrodite, perched high above the city on the Acra Corinth, draws worshippers with its mysterious rituals and legendary beauty. Some evenings, you are invited to play music for gatherings at the temple, singing love songs and playful choruses as crowds look out over the city's twinkling lights. But Corinth is also a place where artists compete for recognition between established families seeking honor, ambitious newcomers, and wandering performers who bring news and songs from every corner of the world. At public contests and festivals, people from all classes come together to hear music and see who will win this year's fame and prizes. The crowd is lively, responsive, sometimes hard to please, but when you strike the right chord and win their affection, the feeling is electrifying. The city's rich and dramatic history lives on in every celebration and performance. Here, more than anywhere else, you feel the thrill and challenge of an ever-changing audience, a place where stories, songs, and cultures collide in joyous harmony. Corinth's famous canal, a marvel of engineering, brings still more newcomers and travelers, each eager for novelty and entertainment. At the end of a performance in Corinth, whether in a grand temple, a crowded market, or a noble's shining courtyard, you stand among the city's people and feel proud to bring them together through art. Here, your identity as a pop star is shaped by the constant play of tradition and innovation, local pride and cosmopolitan glamour, a living music that travels as far as the ships and merchants who come and go with the turning of the tides. Traveling through Greece as a pop star, you learn that each city and region carries its own identity, customs, and artistic expectations. Though Athens, the grand capital, is famed for its dazzling festivals and intellectual spirit, and Corinth pulses with trade and glamour, places like Sparta, Thebes, and the Sacred Islands present their own unique opportunities and challenges for a performer. Sparta is first and foremost a city of warriors and discipline, and yet even among battle training, music and poetry play an essential role. Spartan youth learn choral songs to honor their gods and ancestors. At public ceremonies, you join vigorous choruses with men and women whose voices blend in forceful harmony. The rhythms are powerful, the lyrics often center on heroism, valor, and the memory of great victories. Here, simplicity and strength infuse every note, and while there are fewer soloists and playful improvisation, you feel honored by the seriousness and communal pride of Spartan art. Your music reflects the heartbeat of a city that finds beauty in courage and unity. Thebes offers a contrasting tapestry, known for its famous choirs and legendary roots. Think Hercules, Oedipus, and memorable epics. Thebes appreciates technical skill and complex harmonies. When you perform here, you're drawn into a centuries-old tradition of choral mastery, competing and collaborating with other singers in breathtaking festivals. Thebes people love storytelling, and you discover local versions of myths that demand new melodies or clever turns of verse. The city's sacred temples, dedicated to Dionysus and Apollo, host contests that challenge you to blend lyric poetry with riveting showmanship. Delos, Delphic shrines, and other island sanctuaries draw crowds from across Greece. These sacred places seem to glow with divine energy, and even your simplest hymn sounds grand in their echoing halls. Every performance in these holy precincts feels like an offering, not only to the listeners, but to the immortal gods who watch from above. Here, you might be called to improvise a melody after a prophecy, sing the song for a ritual procession, or fill the night air with lulled prayers beside blazing torches and tranquil waves. Other cities, Argos, Olympia, Miletus, and Rhodes, have lively markets, spirited feasts, and their own music contests. You find the festival calendar packed with days requesting your art. Your stories and songs absorb new region-specific words, rhythms, and themes, making you ever more versatile as you travel. The journey itself is part of your artistry. Dotted along the coast or perched atop mountain ridges, each city-state gifts you new inspiration. Local musicians eager to trade melodies, poets seeking collaboration, elders sharing legends and advice. On ships sailing across the gentle Aegean and Ionian seas, you marvel at the ever-changing scenery, sapphire water, rugged green islands, white marble temples, and bustling harbours alive with laughter and music. As a pop star in ancient Greece, your reputation travels on the wind. Each destination brings you a new challenge, a new audience, a new support network. The journeys between cities are full of stories, opportunities to teach and learn, and quiet, moonlit moments when you meditate on how lucky you are. Each day you add another thread to the tapestry of your musical life, knowing that as your songs travel, so do you, becoming both student and master of Greek artistry, welcomed everywhere the language, spirit, and music of your people thrives. The melodies and stories of ancient Greece are passed down through generations, and as a pop star, you play a special part in shaping the experiences of children and young people within your world. Childhood in ancient Greece is a time of play, learning, and ritual, often marked by music, poetry, and the joys of discovery. From the earliest age, music forms a comforting backdrop to daily life. Mothers sing lullabies to soothe restless babies, older siblings play at song games and dance in courtyards, mimicking the moves of festival choruses and dreaming of the day they might perform themselves. Instruments are introduced, young small lyres, rattles and pipes, so children can learn the shapes of melody and rhythm as naturally as speech or laughter. Education is a central value in Greek society. Boys, especially if they are born to aristocratic families, begin formal lessons in music and poetry around the age of 7. They practice reading and reciting the poems of Homer and Hesiod, memorizing lines that tell of great deeds and clever solutions. You might be hired by a local school or a wealthy household to teach children proper technique, the difference between musical modes and the art of blending poetry with melody for performance. Girls' education varies depending on their city and family status. In Athens, girls are usually educated at home by mothers and aunts, learning songs and stories that will prepare them for festival choruses and domestic performances. In Sparta and some island communities, girls join group singing and dancing, celebrated during athletic contests and religious ceremonies that grant them recognition and confidence. Everywhere, music is a tool to build memory, community, and a lifelong appreciation for the beauty of the world. Many childhood rituals in ancient Greece include music. On the 5th or 7th day after birth, families gather for the amphidromia, a ceremony to welcome the newborn into the household. Lullabies and soft hymns mark this moment, carrying the baby around the family hearth as relatives whisper songs of protection and good fortune. Festivals are a highlight for young people. On special feast days, children parade through the streets in processions, clapping and singing, wearing bright garlands and carrying miniature versions of adult offerings. Young choruses sometimes perform before large crowds, taking pride in their harmonies and the stories they tell. Their first public performance is a rite of passage, and you recall the thrill of your own earliest concert, barely old enough to hold your instrument, heart pounding with anticipation. Growing up in your musical world, children watch and learn from pop stars, poets, and performers. You serve as a role model, both admired and sometimes envied by eager students. During slower afternoons, you gather neighborhood children and teach them popular melodies, sometimes composing playful verses about daily life, mischievous friendships, or dreams of heroism and adventure. As children become teens, music helps them navigate new emotions and challenges. Boys express their hopes and frustrations in competitive singing games, while girls might work together to create moving chorus pieces for festival performances. For both, song and poetry are ways to craft identity, win friendship, and honor family traditions. You notice that music also has a healing and comforting role. When a child is sick or sad, gentle tunes can bring solace. Stories sung at bedtime help calm anxious minds and give shape to dreams. Across all cities and classes, the power of music is respected as both medicine and magic. As a pop star guiding, inspiring, and entertaining the next generation, you find immense joy in watching children sing your songs, quote your lyrics, and imagine their own adventures on stage. In your world, music is never just for the elite. It belongs to everyone, from the youngest child humming in the market to the oldest singer remembering tales of youth. The legacy you create will live long after your last performance, woven through the laughter and promise of Greek childhood. As you move through the seasons of your career, you also see how life as a pop star in ancient Greece is enriched by both daily routine and special moments of extraordinary creativity. Your work is shaped by the rhythms of the year festivals, competitions, marriage ceremonies, and religious rites. But between these grand events, the simple days matter too. You begin each morning with personal ritual. Sometimes you wake with the sunrise, and before greeting the world, you sit in quiet reflection, tuning your lyre and letting your thoughts wander. The city is still, save for a few vendors preparing their stalls in the market and neighbors sweeping courtyards. Music, for you, is a companion helping set intention and gratitude for each day. Occasionally you use this time to craft new songs, drawing inspiration from the dreams of the night or the memory of a recent performance. Breakfast might be a piece of bread, olives, and strong wine, sometimes shared with colleagues and friends if you have a busy concert ahead. You exchange news and laughter, comparing techniques and recalling stories of festivals past. Preparations for important ceremonies or contests can stretch through the morning. Rehearsals, costume fittings, and last-minute adjustments become part of the daily routine. Every performer knows that no matter how talented they are, excellence depends on the discipline of practice. In the afternoons, the city comes alive with color and sound. You wander between homes, schools, and assembly halls, offering lessons to eager students and teaching the technical details of Greek music, the different modes, rules of rhythm, and secrets behind memorable lyrics. Young poets approach you for advice and friendship, while wealthy patrons sometimes send for private performances, requiring new compositions for their family's celebrations. On quiet days, you escape the city for a peaceful walk through olive groves or along the coastline, humming unwritten melodies or reciting favorite verses to the wind. Nature is an endless source of renewal for artists. It is here, in solitude, that you sometimes discover lyrics for songs that will one day bring audiences to tears or laughter. As evening falls, the city transforms yet again. Whether for a private dinner, a symposium with nobles, or a seductive concert beneath the open sky, music draws people together. The laughter and debate, the dancing, the shy compliments after a show all blend into a tapestry of pleasure and connection. Some nights end with impromptu contests, poets and musicians improvising before lively crowds, turning competition into camaraderie. Each day holds surprises. Occasionally, you are called urgently to compose a lament for a beloved elder or to honor the arrival of a famous visitor. At other times, festivals rage into the street, bringing mass processions, torchlight, and communal song that seem to sweep up the entire city in celebration. You adapt with the moment, shaping your art to the needs and dreams of the people who call upon you. Living as a pop star in ancient Greece is not about endless luxury, but about perpetual motion, creativity, and human connection. You span all walks of society, finding joy not just in the thunderous applause of the theatre, but in the quiet smile of a child learning her first song. The everyday world is as much a stage as the grand festival, and every moment is an opportunity to create beauty, share emotion, and deepen the bonds that hold your city together. As your career flourishes, you begin to realize how much your artistry helps to shape Greek identity and foster a lasting legacy. In ancient Greece, music and poetry are regarded as gifts from the gods, integral to education, politics, military life, family bonds, and the very spirit of citizenship. Political leaders and philosophers, from Solon to Pericles, often discuss how music molds the soul and strengthens culture. It's expected that every citizen learns the essential hymns of the city, praising Athena, Apollo, or Dionysus during public ceremonies. Music and poetry are not idle entertainments. They're woven into the laws, civic rituals, athletic events, and military marches that define Greek life. Even in the assembly or the courts, memorable phrases and clever wordplay mark the best speakers. As a beloved pop star, you are invited to special symposia hosted by statesmen and scholars, where conversations swirl around the power of melody, lyric, and myth to guide public life. Here you listen to philosophers probe the nature of virtue, reason, and beauty. Sometimes you're asked to compose verses that support a political cause, songs for city unity in times of war, laments that memorialize lost heroes after famous battles, or odes to hope and redemption during uncertain seasons. Children sing your songs at home and in the agora, learning moral lessons and civic pride from your lyrics. Soldiers remember your melodies when marching to war, drawing courage and camaraderie from the rhythms that once echoed in festival halls. Even the elders who witnessed years of change and challenge recall the hymns of their youth and take comfort in the familiar sounds of your music. Art becomes a means to navigate social change. During times of prosperity, your joyful anthems echo across city squares and temple steps, inspiring pride and optimism. In moments of hardship, plague, famine, or civil strife, your music helps people mourn, heal, and endure together, You watch neighbors gather for public performance, finding strength in shared melodies that tie their stories, losses, and dreams together. As you reflect on your growing influence, you realize how much culture flourishes through collaboration. Painters depict your lyrics on cups and amphorae. Sculptors craft statues inspired by your odes to the gods. Playwrights adapt your best stanzas within grand tragedies and comedies. Even traveling merchants spread your verses, teaching distant provinces the tunes and stories that make them feel kinship with the city at the heart of Greece. The legacy you craft is not measured only in fame or fortune, but in the web of emotions, meanings, and values that your music inspires. You feel honored to have played a role in so many lives, to have lifted spirits, shaped thought, given comfort, and celebrated all that is best in the Greek experience. Tomorrow, another song awaits. Your story is interwoven with the destiny of your people. You march steadily forward, knowing that as a pop star in ancient Greece, your music, poetry, and presence will echo in memory, transforming the world, one lyric, one performance, and one heart at a time. Years pass, and the story of your life as a pop star in ancient Greece grows deeper, more colorful, more meaningful. Your music becomes part of the city's fabric and the countryside's memory, an echo across olive groves and marble temples, a gentle companion as families gather at night. The seasons blur together. Spring arrives with fresh festivals. Summer brings rounds of open-air concerts and processions. Autumn is marked by the laughter of grape harvests, and winter glows with intimate evenings spent by the fire sharing stories and song. You have traveled far, meeting performers and poets in every city, collaborating on new choruses, learning dialects and customs as you go. Sometimes you visit sacred islands surrounded by the clear blue sea, spending tranquil moments before performances, composing lyrics inspired by fresh breezes and starlit skies. At other times, you perform on bustling city streets or in the grandeur of ancient theatres, your voice mingling with the laughter and applause of eager crowds. The relationships you have built are one of your greatest treasures. Patrons who believed in your talent from the beginning still support your career. Young musicians approach you for advice, excited to join you on stage or work on new projects. Friends from distant lands send messages and gifts. Sometimes they invite you to join great celebrations or ceremonies abroad. Through all these experiences, you learn the true value of humility and gratitude. Some nights, you reflect on your earliest songs and the mentors who showed you the way. You think of the kindness you received from friends, artists, and festival organizers, and the many children whose voices now echo yours throughout Greece. Fame loses its shine compared to the joy of sharing music, bringing comfort, inspiration, and unity to all who listen. You keep writing, keep performing. There are times when, late at night, you compose a gentle melody just for yourself, a song as private as a whispered prayer. At other times, you join in massive celebrations, your music loud and fearless, lifting thousands to their feet. Your life remains one of purpose and passion. Each new story a chance to celebrate the beauty of being alive. Each new crowd a reminder that your voice, your art, belongs to all. Old age comes, and with it a new role. You become a mentor, a guardian of tradition, and a beloved memory for your city and your people. Younger artists take your place in the spotlight, but you remain a cherished figure, invited to share wisdom, lead choruses for special festivals, and tell stories of the golden days when every note seemed to shape the sky. As dusk falls over ancient Greece, you watch the stars twinkle above the city. The music fades, but the spirit remains. Your legacy as a pop star lives on in every song sung after you, in every heart touched by your work, and in the enduring melody of life itself. A sound that will outlast empires and echo forever, gentle, joyful, and alive with possibility. Good night. Like, comment, and subscribe.